Welcome to YG One-on-One, sponsored by Right Now Media at Work and FlexScripts. On YG TV, we bring action-oriented entrepreneurs and free thinkers to the stage so we can be inspired, informed, and better understand how we can grow by breaking the rules of business. This show, YG One-on-One, is quite simple, really. It's a long-form sit-down with a CEO, business leader, or luminary to learn how they got there and what they can teach us. Today, we welcome Kevin Steiner, President and CEO of West Bend Mutual Insurance Company. Kevin, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Paul. Happy to be here.
Well, wonderful to have you. I got to ask you right off the gate, did you always aspire to be a business person?
No, I did not. I actually went off to college to play baseball. And after my sophomore year, my father said, you got to choose a major. And he was a school teacher. He said, teach for a couple years. It'll open doors for you. So I actually taught for school, biology for 1 year. And then the light probably went on and said, no, I think I want to be in the business world. And went and got my MBA and ended up in the insurance business.
So you talk about that light going on. What was that moment where that light bulb went off for you that, hey, this would be a good career opportunity to pursue?
I think it was at a parent-teacher conference, teaching freshmen or sophomores biology, and was talking with a parent about a student who was giving me a lot of trouble in the classroom, and the parent basically said, that's your problem. I sent him off to school for you to take care of him.
Oh boy.
And the light bulb went on and said, I don't think I want to do this. And my father taught for 40 years, and he was an awesome, awesome teacher. But and at that point, the light bulb went on and said, and my mom actually, she ran the village that we grew up in, and she was, my dad was a school teacher, my mom was the village clerk and treasurer, and so it really was, what? No, I think I want to head to the world of business, not knowing what I wanted to do in the world of business, but let's head that direction.
Sure. So why insurance specifically? I mean, a talented guy like you could probably be quite successful in a lot of different fields. What is it about the insurance field that's so alluring to you?
Yeah, well, there was nothing alluring to me about it, and I actually took a practice interview when I was just about finishing up my MBA. I was expecting to go into, emphasis was finance, something in that world, but when I talked to this insurance company, Century Insurance, I certainly give them credit, as they opened my eyes to this is a really fascinating business, and there's a lot of finance in this business. And what really, I still remember thinking, they don't know the cost of goods sold until years down the road. So you're trying to figure out what to charge for a product when you don't even know the cost of goods sold. And that's why, of course, we have actuaries and we have now all these data scientists, and there's a lot of numbers there. But then on the flip side, you learn it's a people business, because what you do is you engage and sell our product. Mm-hmm. I engage all the time with our independent agent partners, and I love people, and I'm very much relationship driven, and there were so many opportunities for that. Yet behind it all was all these numbers, and that really also fascinated me. So really, in a way, you got best of both worlds, Paul.
Yeah, sure. So we've got a decent sized audience of C-suite executives, business professionals, entrepreneurs. I would assume most of them would know a thing or two about insurance, but for those that aren't in the minutia like you every day, what is one thing you wish more business people knew about insurance that they don't?
I would say, in this pandemic has certainly brought it to the front, is that not everything is insurable. And so you think about, it would have been nice had we been able to wrap up in our policies pandemic coverage, or coverage for a virus, for this, what just occurred, but we wouldn't know what to charge. And so what it is we pool dollars to take care of primarily catastrophic losses, but there's some things that, and that terrorism was another example, is that it really is just getting people to understand the basics of insurance, and it's all about pooling dollars to take care of those who have loss, especially significant loss. And it's not necessarily intended for someone to be turning in a claim every month for every small thing. Although in a way we've kind of created that because we create coverages that often cover the smallest thing, and so in a way we kind of create that behavior. But it's really helping people understand what are the how does insurance work.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I'm a big fan of West Bend Mutual.
Thank
and
you.
It's been a blessing to get to know you and other members of your organization over the last couple of years in my role with the Star Group. You've had a lot of success at your organization under your tenure. One of the things I admire most about you, Kevin, is you're a humble, modest person. But during your tenure, considering where West Bend Mutual was when you came on as president and CEO versus where you are now, talk to me a little bit about the direction West Bend has gone in and some of the accomplishments that you're most proud of as the leader of this great organization.
So I was blessed to join West Bend 26 years ago, and it was a really fine organization. And it had a great reputation. It had a great culture. There was great, people that worked at the company. And so I was really fortunate to be able to, and didn't go to West Bend with any intention of being CEO. I wanted to be the vice president of sales, which I ended up in that role shortly after I got there. But it really was a great organization. So in 2008, I became president. In 2009, I became CEO. At that point, I really sat down, and even prior in my interviews with the board, thought about, okay, what would I want to accomplish in my tenure if I was given the opportunity to be CEO, and clearly, what would I accomplish with the team, not what I would accomplish individually. And as I reflected on our company, we had a great reputation, but if you looked at our results and studied our results, and that would be top line, bottom line, they were average. They were industry average. Nothing wrong with that. They were pretty good, but they were industry average. And so I said to myself, and I didn't really share it for a while, was if we could match our results with our reputation, we'd have something. And so what I'm most proud of is if you study our company the last 10 years, and I had a good team to start, but we've made some changes to that team. We've added some people, some really good people to that team, and began to share this vision of, if we could match our results to our reputation, we'd have something. And that would mean that we'd have to far exceed the industry results. And so the good news is, it took us a couple years to get the ship righted. We had some things we had to work on. But the last 8 years, we have beat the industry every year. We've beat our peers, both top line, bottom line. We're really, I think, certainly top quartile, but I'm almost positive we're top decile when it comes to results. And we, at the same time, I believe, have strengthened our reputation and built a brand that really has actually, and probably the best testimony, does it work? It works in Wisconsin, you know that, because you sell it, and West Bend, the silver lining, the worst brings out our best. People know that. But when you go to Tennessee and you go to North Carolina and you go to Virginia, can we sell West Bend Mutual? Can we sell the silver lining? And we have had great success as we've gone to these new states. We're not going to be a national company, but we have to add some geography to keep our growth, at a number that where we'd like it to be. And so, to me, that was is that we could take what we had built over the last, and this has really been just recently in these new states, what we've built, and take that to new states, and agents, once they get to know us, say, oh, I want to do more business with West Bend. Yeah. So it's been, the team has done a tremendous job. And your point about, and it's something my parents taught me a long, long time ago, is that, you need to be humble, you need to be thankful, you're part of a team. And if you study the 5 levels of leadership, there's only one thing distinguishes level 5, the highest level, from level 4, and that's being humble. And so as you grow and you become successful, because we all hear nothing fails like success. And a couple of my board members reminded me of that, and remind me of that quite often. And so, so you always, to me, even though we've achieved great success, we can do better. We can do better.
Do you think humility is in abundant supply in the executive leadership ranks, or do you think that's a virtue that we need more of from our business leaders?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me answer is I believe it's in abundant supply in the West Bend Mutual leadership team.
Absolutely.
So I'd start there. And you know some of them.
I do.
And I think, to me, that also, and do I think that I'd like to see more of it in the general business population? Yes. But to me, people need role models. They need people who demonstrate that, that humbleness, and figure out that works. That's how I create trust. That's how I connect with people. And once people see that and become part of that, and figure out this is really the way to do business. And it's really, I'm a big believer in servant leadership, and there's certainly that's a huge aspect and a huge part of servant leadership.
Yeah, one of the things that I've really come to admire about West Bend, among other things, is yours is a big company, but it doesn't have a big company feel. And I can't imagine that was an easy thing to pull off. I think you guys make it look quite easy, but I know it wasn't behind the scenes. What are some of the challenges of running an organization the size of West Bend Mutual from your perspective?
In fact, we get into this conversation when we get to culture, and we talk about our culture, and I have meetings with our associates on their 5-year anniversary increments. That's probably 20 meetings a month, and it's anywhere from 15 minutes to a half hour, and we talk about. And so today I had 3 of them. Unfortunately, they're Zoom or they're on the phone, and I had a 5-year, a 10-year anniversary, and a 40-year anniversary. And so when you talk about people, and you talk to this individual 40 years with us, and we talk about how the company's changed, you get into this, and she always makes, well, the company's different. I said, Linda, of course it's different. We have 1,400 employees today. You know what, when you started, we probably had 150, and so your company's gonna be different. But I said to her, is the company still a really good place to work? Yes. Why? Because we're like family. And so you can still, to me, have 1,400 people and still be like family. And that just really is all about every day showing up and caring for others. And independent agents who visit our company, they love it because they say, everybody smiles at me. Everybody wants to know how they can help. And so that's just the kind of people that that we hire. And if we hire them, they're not quite like that, well, they either figure out they're going to be like that, or maybe they move on. Yeah. And so to me, it's just constantly talking about, our culture and what we want that culture to be, and then modeling that, starting with our officer group, our management team, and demonstrating that every day. So we're a different company today than we were 10 years ago.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we're $1.4 billion in revenue, and we were $600 million, I don't know what it was, 10 years ago. And so, of course, you're going to be a different company, but we're still a really good company with a really good culture based on what our associates tell us, based on what our agents tell us.
Absolutely. Well, and you hear the word culture used a lot. I mean, that's a big buzzword out there today for sure. And if somebody's watching this today and says, you know what, I'm inspired. I want to turn around our company culture. I want to enhance our corporate culture. What would you say are 2 or 3 of the biggest building blocks for a successful corporate culture? I know it can vary by organization. I know it can vary by industry. But if there were 2 or 3 things that run through every successful corporate culture, what would you say those 2 or 3 things are?
First of all, it would be deciding what kind of company you want to be. And for us, we wanted to be a relationship company. So our culture is based on and built around relationships. And then it's figuring out, okay, we're a relationship company. Well, what does that actually mean? And actually, it got us into trouble. When I said our results weren't as good as 10, 15 years ago as maybe we would have liked them, their industry averages. The relationship, to me, was with independent agents. I described it as okay, oh, Paul, whatever you want us to write, we'll write, because we want to have a good relationship. Versus, no, we need to write business together that's going to perform that way we want it to perform. That's going to be good for the policyholder, good for the agent, good for the company. And that means saying no sometimes. And so a relationship, didn't mean just saying yes all the time. And so you had to decide, what does that relationship mean? Same with our associates is, I would argue that, and shame on me because I was part of the management team, is we didn't necessarily hold our associates, our employees, accountable. We didn't set good expectations and then hold them accountable the way we should have. And so once we started doing that, it created some angst. But of course, once people figured out we set expectations and we set them together. and then we get held accountable, and we succeed, we all get rewarded, and we all win, and we all, we're all pretty happy. And so to me, it's what kind of company do you want to be? What kind of culture do you want to have? And then what does that actually mean? Because then you got to execute it. Yeah. And I say all the time is, your culture doesn't have to be perfect. Your strategy doesn't have to be perfect. Because what really matters is how you execute.
Sure.
And so as long as you get it pretty good, strategy, culture, and then you do a really good job of execution, my guess is, as an organization, you're going to win.
Yeah. Well, you've seen a lot of leaders in your tenure. You've met with a lot of leaders. You've mentored a lot of leaders. What would you say are some of the biggest leadership mistakes that you continue to see that otherwise could be avoidable?
One would be, and I learned it the hard way, is you try to be friends with all the people that you work with, that report to you. And instead of being really honest with them about where their areas are for improvement, what they can do to become a better West Bend Mutual associate, a better professional. So to me, it's not, again, it gets back to that accountability. It's not, you got to set good expectations with people, and then you have to hold them accountable. And so that to me is a mistake. I see it all the time. I see it with young, managers, is that they want to be friends, and they delay delivering that bad news, or they, and in the end, it's, that's the best thing you can do for someone that that you work with. So and then the other would be, as I say, one of the things I see is people try to be something they're not. So to me, it was, I learned long ago, and I learned from my parents, is be authentic. I have strengths and I have weaknesses. It's interesting. I'm not a big reader. I mean, you talk about what book did you read? I read a lot of insurance, publications, and and talk to a lot of people. But I'm not a big reader. And so, you try to sit down and read a bunch of, well, it just didn't work for me. Well, then you got to find a different way to figure out what's going on. And so and truly with people, if you try to be something you're not, number one, you're not going to be very good at it, and number two, they're going to figure it out pretty quick.
Sure.
Yeah. So be authentic. Yeah.
So you talk about reading, or in this case, lack thereof. A lot of people utilize that for professional development reasons. What does Kevin Steiner do for professional development? What works for you? What do you utilize to become the best possible version of yourself from a professional perspective?
Learn from others. And so that's why, engaged at, so I would give kudos to Kathy Jacobson, who was the CEO at Freighter, and I was on the board for 12 years, and actually I was part of the team that hired her. I learned a tremendous amount from her, and so I could go down the list of leaders that I got to engage with, interact with because of my community work. That's who I learned from. And then I think about my board. I got a really a board full of successful people that I lean on for strategy, or I lean on for marketing. I lean on for whatever their skill might be, and so learn from my board members. And so to me, it was more have great conversations with people and get to know them beyond just the surface, and learn about them. So, and then I'd say to me, learn from the people that report to me. I think about my team, and I've learned so much from the people that report to me. And a number of them are big readers, and I always come, and I love our chief information officer right now. He's always he wanted, when I interviewed him, he wanted to know if he could be a part of the strategy team. And he's awesome, because always bringing, sometimes they're way out in left field, and I just say, Merle, that's in left field. But I love it when So to me, that's how I learn. Maybe they're doing the reading for me, Paul.
Sure, maybe. Well, and part of the way that we strengthened our relationship over the course of this past year was based on my involvement with the American Heart Association, serving as the chairman of the Heart Walk. Heather Dunn, your very talented
CFO,
served on my committee, and she did a fantastic job. Now, West Bend Mutual is a very community-centric organization. You don't just give a lot, you volunteer a lot. I know that's a passion of yours, so maybe you can speak to that. But in addition to that, you're also quite savvy in the sense that you use community service for networking purposes, and it sounds like you've built some pretty good relationships with other executives through those endeavors. Can you talk about that for me?
Yeah. So let's go. The networking piece is you're exactly right. Is that when I became CEO, somebody suggested maybe I join a tech group or whatever, and that didn't really interest me. And instead I said, well, you know what? And my board suggested I get more involved in outside of West Bend. And so at that point I reached out and joined some organizations, UPAF, the MAC Fund Board, the Greater Milwaukee Committee, and then Freighter, the Hospital System Board. And so that to me just was a great way for me to meet people and serve the greater, southeast Wisconsin, and yet really develop my network of CEOs. So I didn't have to go to tech. I could just pick up the phone and call John Schliske if I needed to, or whatever. And that was a great thing. So to me, that was really, it's a huge benefit. And that also happened in West Bend. In West Bend, I probably been involved in a good, 8 to 10 different, nonprofits, going through the chairs probably in almost all of them, and knowing all the players in West Bend, and having a great network right in West Bend as well. And so yeah, it really, I would say that to anyone, is that it is all about serving your community. It's all about helping others, but a great benefit is networking, and we use it now as we grow our leadership team. Heather Dunn's a good example. She took my place at UPAF. Okay. Is that, and we recently had our Senior VP of Claims join the Red Cross board, and our Senior VP of Commercial Lines join Feeding America's board. And so trying to also, besides just West Bend, how do we get involved in more statewide, organization?
We're just getting started. Let's take a quick break and come back for more with Kevin Steiner, President and CEO of West Bend Mutual Insurance Company. This episode of YG Stage on YG TV is brought to you by Flex Scripts and Right Now Media at Work. If you're a CEO, listen up. Odds are you're paying too much for your employee benefit pharmacy spend. How do I know? I work with Flex Scripts. They're the PBM police, delivering their average client 15 to 20% savings on their pharmacy benefits. Wow. Think how much money that is. Flex Scripts makes sure your PBM keeps their promises and meets your guarantees. And if they don't, Flex Scripts holds them accountable and gets you what you deserve. Stop paying too much for your pharmacy benefits. Get Flex Scripts, the PBM police on your side. Start the conversation today at flexscripts.com. That's flexscripts.com.
Welcome to Right Now Media at Work, an on-demand library of video resources used by Christian business leaders to care for employees, inspire leaders, and cultivate a healthy team. Serve your employees with over 20,000 videos on topics like professional development, mental health, and leadership from leaders like Patrick Lencioni, Henry Cloud, and John Maxwell, plus marriage, parenting, and personal finance content. Help your employees become better at home and better at work. Schedule a free demo today to get an in-depth tour of Right Now Media at Work.
Sure. Well, and in a couple of occasions since we sat down, you've mentioned your parents, yes, and it sounds like they were a tremendous influence on your life. Can you speak to that a little bit and how they've made you the man you are today?
Yeah. So I grew up in a farming community of 500 people in central Wisconsin, and my dad was the agriculture teacher, and my mom was the village clerk and treasurer, and we ran the local drugstore in town as well. So first of all, they worked very hard. So I learned a great work ethic from them, and then they basically led every initiative, and they in that little community, and we were always required. We didn't always do it probably happily, to set up chairs and take down tables and do all those things that you do to run the local picnic and all those things. And so we learned at a very early age how to participate in community events and activities, and so that just then fed my interest in how do I continue to do that, but they really were a product of our past, and they're the ones that I remember my father giving me the advice he gave me when I left for that first, it was actually when I left for my first insurance job, and his advice was, number one, respect everyone and treat the receptionist, the janitor, the cook the same way you treat the CEO. Which he didn't need to tell me that, because that's what he modeled his entire life for me. My mom did the same. The other things weren't quite, although they weren't as profound, but afterwards I thought about it, I thought, they were pretty profound. So the second was always shine your shoes. Every Sunday night he shined his shoes. and was, so you got to look your best. Sure. You know, it's just not about shining your shoes. It's about looking your best. And then the third was, and I still, I do it today, was carry a handkerchief.
Okay.
And that was, to me, the message was be prepared. Because I can't tell you how many times I've handed this handkerchief to someone else. Because there's a crisis or that, you know, whatever. And so, yeah, and so, you know, you step back and you think about what your parents told you. And so in my case, I was pretty fortunate to have two really great role models that, you know, helped me become the person I am today.
Yeah, well, your parents did a great job.
Well, thanks. Yeah, they're both gone, and we miss them dearly, but they live on, certainly.
Sure. Well, and we talk about learning from role models, and I'm sure you would agree that as business executives, one of the best ways that we learn is through our failures. Yes. It just kind of forces us to go back and think, to modify our behaviors in some way, shape, or form. So if I were to have you do a bit of an inventory of your past, Kevin, what would you say was one of the failures that you learned the most from?
Yeah. So I think I talked about it, and that was when I was given my first management job, and it was actually a great opportunity because the company had spun off. I wanted to create a branch office, and I got the job to be head of their personal lines division and I had to hire 10, 12 people right away. So I hired the people, and then I tried to become their best friend. And that was a big mistake. And it was, you know, in the end, I didn't hold them accountable. I really didn't do a very good job of mentoring and coaching. So I learned from that, and you learn quickly, is that, so then as I grew in my career and got more opportunities, responsibilities, that always stuck with me is, when something's not right, when you see somebody who's not performed maybe the way they should have, or there's a shortcoming, tell them right away. I mean, and don't, you just have to be honest with people. It's not easy. So that was probably, that sticks with me from, early on in my career.
Well, as a student of leadership myself, I'm fascinated about how some people make it and others don't, how some succeed and thrive, and others just can't seem to get out of the starting blocks. And I think any business executive, any C-suite executive, any entrepreneur faces a lot of adversity. And their ability to work through that, their ability to overcome that mental toughness, that grit, that's something I really admire in individuals. There's no way you get to where you are unless you have some of that. So for the edification of some of the folks watching this, can you describe to us what was the toughest day of your career and how did you get through that?
So we created a company in Michigan, and I spent 10 years in Michigan working for the gentleman that we hired to create that company. And so it was a subsidiary company of West Bend, and we spun it up pretty quickly, and it became very successful. Now, that individual, that company reported to the CEO at the time, not to me, but I was instrumental in starting that company, helping start that company. And then when I became CEO, that individual reported to me. So I'd reported to him for 10 years. So now he reported to me, and we had a great relationship. So that was not an issue at all. And I learned a lot from him, and so that was not an issue. But we made the decision, and ultimately I had to make the decision, is that we were going to sell that company. So, and the reason we were going to sell that company is that that company was going in a different direction than, so it was really becoming more of an investment than a strategy, I would say that. And we, if we were going to invest our dollars, we probably would invest them in a different place. And so I had to go to that individual and tell him that we were going to sell the company. And so here's a gentleman that was a role model of mine who helped me get to where I am today. And then I had to turn around and tell him is that, we believe the right thing to do is to sell the company. And I knew that because he had autonomy, he loved, his ability to run that company. And that was not, anytime you sell a company, of course, people say, oh, yeah, we'll leave you alone. And that does not happen very often. And so that was hard. But what I learned from it is sometimes you just have to be honest with people. You have to tell them why, and you have to accept they're not going to like it. They're not going to be happy. But yet good people will find their way,
Yeah.
and which he did, and life goes on.
So in closing, because I could talk to you all day, I enjoy your words of wisdom and your inspiration. To the C-suite executives and the business owners and the entrepreneurs that are watching this today, if you wanted to leave them with one question to ponder, what question would that be? What question would you like them to mull over as a result of our conversation today?
I would say is are you setting the model? Are you being the role model that you should be for your team, for your fellow officers, for your associates? Are you being the best you can be as a role model? And that doesn't mean that you have to talk to everybody, because as we know, they watch everything that, as an executive, they watch everything you do. Right. And so are you being the best you can be in that? And again, that's, leadership doesn't have to be spoken. And so just, I would say be mindful of, you show up every day and be the best you can be in terms of being that example, that role model for others.
Well, Kevin, I got to tell you, you're one of the busiest human beings on the planet. The fact that you would set aside some time of your busy schedule and join me on this stage means a lot. It's a blessing to know you personally, and it's wonderful to be associated with West Bend at the Star Group. So really appreciate you being on the show today.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it, and congratulations on all of your success. What you're doing here is wonderful, and greatly appreciate your efforts. So thanks.
Thanks to Kevin Steiner for sitting down on YG One-on-One, sponsored by FlexScripts and Right Now Media at Work. We want to feature the CEOs and executives that inspire you. Let us know who you'd like to see by connecting with us on our website or various social media platforms. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single episode of YG TV. I'm your host, Paul M. Neuberger, President of the Star Group and CEO of the Young Guns Movement. See you next time.